Hey everyone, this is Mr. Ward giving a brief overview to Nearpod. Nearpod is basically an interactive presentation maker, so it works similar to a slideshow that you might make in PowerPoint or Google Slides, but with Nearpod you can actually add interactive elements and games to it to enable your audience to interact with you. So it can be extremely useful for teaching students because you can quiz them as you're going or ask them questions, and then even add a few features to have them collaborate with each other in real time while you're presenting. So you can notice over here you have the option to explore lessons that other teachers have made and use them in your Nearpod or even customize them. Over here on the left, you have the option to see Nearpod lessons that teachers in your building have created and even teachers within your entire district. So if other teachers in your district or school use Nearpod, you can see lessons they've created and share them among them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this slideshow or presentation that I've created in Nearpod using the Lesson in Nearpod feature, and it shows you the various things you can add to a Nearpod slideshow. So when you're looking at your Nearpod editor, it works like a regular slideshow where up here it goes left to right. It goes through all of these just like a slideshow. So this first one is just a simple welcome slide, and you can add in basic slides by clicking add slide and slide. And so you can add in what you would normally use to instruct using a presentation. But you also have the option to add in these other resources like a video or a link to another website. And then these other options are simply tools that Nearpod has. So for example, Flowcabulary are just simple grammar lessons and cartoons that Nearpod has available. Nearpod 3 is a collection of 3D models that you can show to your class. So for example, looking at it, you could have an animal cell or the full body model, and you work through that with your class. If you have an existing slideshow, such as with a PowerPoint or a Google Slide document, clicking on slideshow will enable you to upload the entire thing to incorporate it into your slideshow. But what I want to focus on today is the activities you can add to your slideshow. So if you click on activities, these are actually interactive elements that your audience can interact with to contribute to the discussion or just show what they're learning as you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my presentation that I've created, which will give you an example of all the interactive elements you can add to a Nearpod slideshow. There's two ways you can run a Nearpod presentation. Student paced enables them to go through the presentation at their own pace rather than live with you. That can be good if you have students at different levels and who work faster or slower than each other, but we're going to go through it as if it's a live lesson, like I'm interacting with my classroom. So the way you start it is you just simply share the code with your class and they type it in when they go to nearpod.com and then they can join. You can also send it to your Google Classroom if you have one set up or these other services and have them join from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the teacher view and the student view at the same time so you can see how it works in real time as I walk you through the activities you can add. So over on the right, I'm going to type in a name to join the session, and then the teacher will be able to see the students as they join. So there's my student pop up there, and then as more join, you'll obviously see a list here. So going to my first slide, we have obviously the welcome slide, which is a self-explanatory basic PowerPoint slide. And then here are the various activities I've created. The first is an open-ended question, which just gives a simple prompt. So if I type in my answer on the student side, the teacher can then see all of the answers over here as they pop in. And then you'll notice as students respond to these activities, you have the option to share the responses with the rest of the class. So for right now, all the responses are private, but if I wanted to highlight one, clicking share will let the rest of the class see that response. So I'm going to click share just as an example. And now that I've clicked share, a pizza is showing up on the student side to show that response. Moving to my next slide, my next activity I've created is a collaborate. A collaborate is like an open-ended question where it gives a prompt, but instead of the answers being private, they'll actually pop up on this board for everyone to see. So over here on the teacher side, you can see it gives me the option to have to approve student comments before they're posted. That's useful if you want to check what they write before you post it. Clicking this checkbox will make that apply to the rest of the presentation. So over here on the right, I'm going to answer as the student. I'm going to type in the word apple, and then that'll pop up on the collaborate board. As the teacher over here on the left, this little box up here shows me that somebody has responded. So clicking on that will let me approve or disapprove the comment. So I'm going to approve it. And now everybody in the presentation can see that comment. And then obviously you also have the ability to delete any comment if you would like to take it back down. Moving forward, the next type of activity you can add is a draw it, which is just like an open-ended question, except instead of typing it, you have to draw your answer. So over here, I'm going to draw my answer as the student and then submit it. And then over on the teacher side, obviously you'll see the drawing pop up. And then if you click on a student's drawing, that'll give you the option to share it with the rest of the class like we did before. Moving forward, my next activity I've created is a poll, and it's self-explanatory. It just provides a poll option that students answer, and then it'll show all the answers over here on the teacher page. So I'm going to answer as a student. I'll just select reading, submit it, and then it pops up over here. Now, as a teacher, obviously, like I said before, it is private, but if you want, you can share the poll with the rest of the class. So sharing it will bring it up on the presentation side on the right. Moving on again, my next activity is a game actually called Time to Climb. And what this game actually is that it is a quiz that has a game attached to it. So as students answer the question, they will move up or down on the mountain. So on the student side, I'm going to choose a character. And once everybody has chosen a character, they will pop up on the screen right here. So on the teacher side, I'm going to start the game. And the way the game works is it gives these questions that I have created as the teacher when I set up the Nearpod. So depending on whether you answer the questions correctly or not, your character will move up the mountain. So if you have a full class, you may see 10 or 11 characters and they'll all move up the mountain, and the furthest one up is the one who's answered the most correct questions. Moving on, my next activity I've created is a matching pairs activity, and all it means is you create pairs of words and students just have to match them together. So for example, I'll match lizard with reptile and mammal with cow to answer the question. And like before, all the results show up on the teacher page. My next activity is just a basic quiz. So a quiz can be as many questions as you want. Right now, I've only created one question. And so once they add it, it'll show the results on the left. You can share if you want, or you can just save them for your records. The next type of activity you can add is a fill in the blank question. So the way you create it as a teacher is you type in the sentence and then you select the words that have been blanked out. So down here, I only blanked out one word, so there's only one word to choose. But if I had decided to blank out more words, they would all pop up in the bottom. And then finally, the last option you have for activities to create is a memory test, which is just like the memory card game you might play as a kid. You choose and match pairs based on remembering where they are in the layout. So all of these images I added myself when creating the memory test. You also have the option to pair images with words. Say if you're learning new words and you want to pair them with each other or pair them with pictures, then you can do it that way. If your class uses Flipgrid, which I've covered in a different video, you can actually add that into the slideshow as well. So say you're working through the slideshow and then you want to ask the class a question in the form of a video, then inserting it into your Nearpod will enable you to have the class do the Flipgrid during the course of the presentation. So when you set up the Flipgrid for your Nearpod, all it will ask you to do is type in the link to your page for the Flipgrid and then type in the student code for the Flipgrid. That way, whenever you do it as a class, it'll show your teacher page and then the students will just sign in as a student. And if you are interested in hearing more about using Flipgrid, you can check out my other video on Flipgrid. And then as the teacher, once you are finished with the presentation, if you go up here to the top and click the Nearpod title and the arrow beside it, it'll give you an option to choose reports. And then an email will be sent to your email with a summary of all the answers to the presentation and the grades and such throughout the presentation. And so that can be used to keep track of what happens during each of your Nearpod presentations. Here's an example of using Nearpod activities in an actual presentation. So I have my welcome screen followed by a question. Then I might have a couple pages of just regular text to discuss with the class, and then followed by another activity, a few more pages of text, another activity, and so on. So doing it this way, you can intersperse activities throughout your regular instruction. Nearpod is extremely useful because it enables you to go through presentations with your class like you would in a traditional class setting, and by incorporating interactive activities straight into the presentation, you can be assured that your students are actually paying attention and you have record for what they're learning as they go. If you are distance learning this year, Nearpod can be extremely useful to you because you can go through the presentation from a distance by sending them the class code to join in, and then by having them respond to the presentation and the interactive elements as you go, you know they're paying attention. And if you combine that with a Zoom class, you can actually discuss as you go like you would normally. And then the ability to send the report of the presentation and all the responses to yourself at the end can be helpful because then you'll have evidence of mastery and learning and growth for whatever you need in the future. Adding the individual interactive elements to a Nearpod is extremely simple. So say if you select quiz, all you have to do is type in the questions and then the answers and choose the correct answer, and that's all you have to do to add that to your presentation. Hopefully this overview gives you an idea of how to get started with Nearpod and some ideas on using it in your classroom. Thank you.